The United States Army is changing the way it deals with its crimes, many of them. If you want to know how, stick around and find out.
Rogersarnt!
All right, guys, welcome back to the Rogersarnt podcast where we talk all things Army. And I am your host, Sarn First Class Cruz. And today we're going to be discussing an article that came out on 28 July in reference to how the Army is going to be moving forward when it comes to some type of egregious cases that happen in the Army. We're going to go into an article real fast, but hold up. Before we do that, do me a favor and go ahead and knock that out. All right. We appreciate you guys over here, but let's go ahead and get right into it. Let me not waste your time. The article, I found it on CNN.com. You click on politics, you scroll down, and you find the article. It was written by Donald Judd, and it was on 28 July, and it reads, Biden signs historic order moving prosecution of military sexual assault outside the chain of command. We're going to read the highlights that I highlighted, discuss it a little bit, and then you guys can read it on your own, but you know where to find it. President Joe Biden on Friday ordered a historical change to the Uniform Code of Military Justice by transferring key decision-making authorities outside the chain of command in cases of sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, murder, and other serious crimes. Now, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that this is long overdue. I think that many of the cases that are being handled by the military probably needed to be handled by an outside entity, and it's a plethora of reasons. But I would think number one reason that I can put out is that I think that there's sometimes some command influence, like no one wants to step on each other's toes, or they may know each other, or they may know of, and you know the military, the world is a small place, but the military is even smaller. So you never know who's going to be your boss in the future, and people don't want to step on each other's toes and or cause any further harm or any harm to someone, right? So or to someone's career. So I think with an outside entity, they have no involvement in it, so they don't get anything back. They don't get any good bullets or anything like that. Nothing like that. So I think that this is a good move. This hasn't been changed since the UCMJ was established in 1950. And this officially implements changes passed by Congress as part of the fiscal year 2022's National Defense Authorization Act, which is also known as the NDAA. And as you guys already know, the NDAA, they put out a bunch of suggestions. They're the ones that are also suggesting us going back to the APFT. And that's a whole nother subject, but just understand, I'll say right here, from what I've read, everything that the Army implements, they have to pilot it. So you won't see the APFT official for a couple years, but I digress. And comes 2 years after an independent review commission on sexual assault in the military. So they've been doing investigation. They've been taking numbers and looking at percentages, and this is what they've come up with, and they've actually adhered to it. Like Biden acknowledged and said, "Hey, this is what we need to do." And if you guys also don't know, this is also a YouTube and or podcast that I did in reference to the CBO, which they also every 10 years they come up with some type of way or a game plan on the way that the government can save money. And there were at least 13, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me well, there were 13 suggestions that had to do with military veterans and active duty, one of which was outsourcing military jobs, like jobs that soldiers are doing that military members are doing that can be done by civilians. One, I agreed with that one. The other ones I wasn't too fond of, but I agree with that one because one, it brings soldiers back to their formation so they can get back into their MOS, their craft. I know it kind of sucks when you have a cush job, but this is what we ultimately do. Two, it opens up jobs. And three, I personally believe when it comes to EO, SHARP, and CID. I think those should be outsourced. Next point: a key among changes in the order is the establishment of rules that govern newly formed Office of Special Trial Counsel, which is also going to be known as the OSTC. And this is composed of a panel of independent military prosecutors. It would make I can't get that word right, prosecutorial decisions involving sexual assault and other crimes. So, what it sounds like to me is that they're bringing actual outside entity like civilians, not outside of your organization, not outside of the installation uniform members. Sounds like to me that is going to be, it says independent military prosecutors. So I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me if you guys are reading this. Comment in the comment section below. If you're going to be listening to this on a podcast platform, download and leave a review and talk about it. But I really think that it means that they're going to bring outside personnel. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. These changes follow decades of tireless efforts by survivors, advocates, and members of Congress to strengthen the military justice system's response to gender-based violence. When it comes to this, I think that those victims and slash survivors, they worked hard. They were very selfless in their work because they continued to advocate, and finally, years later, they may not be the one that are going to benefit from this, but they know someone will. More than someone, many future soldiers will. All right. And to be honest with you, if you if you really look at, like, if you go on social media, you will see post after post of individuals, soldiers that are stating that they're being mistreated, and at the same time they're being ostracized, right? And further down in the article, we'll talk about that ostracizing part, right? So let's keep going. So it said, this is coming from John Kirby, right? One of the National Security Council. He says you had to basically create a separate system just to handle these crimes. National Security Council coordinator for strategic communication, John Kirby, he told CNN's Kayla Tosh during a call with the reporter. And that meant standing up offices. That meant also manning the offices. That also meant getting trained investigators and prosecutors in those offices and setting up the structure. And that just took a little bit time. It took a little bit of time. And if we really think about it, everything takes time, especially something as huge as this. Like, we're talking about over 50 years that the military has been doing something a certain way, and now you're trying to change it. And when you change it, you have to make sure you come correct, if you will. So just like when let's say, for example, you guys are doing a training event and you're going to have many evaluators, right? You have to, one, you have to set the training event up. Two, you have to come up with all the documentation, right? Rules, regulation, policies, and things that the troops are going to abide by. And when I talk about troops, I'm talking about the evaluators. You have to train the evaluators, validate the validators, right? To make sure everyone's on the same page. And all that takes time, right? Like, for instance, right now we're doing a E3B. We started planning in January and it takes off now in August. So that's months of working it. So think about this. When if you put it in that perspective, it took time, but we're here. And further down the line, he says, I know it may not sound like much, Kirby said, but it's a big change to the way the military did it. And I will also say to that point is, we were allowed to handle our own business, because no one likes someone coming into their kitchen and cooking and doing anything in their kitchen, right? You want to be the cook, you want to be the chef, you want to be the one who puts the meals together. But they allowed us to do that. And apparently, no, not apparently, obviously, we weren't doing it correctly. So they had to step in, and now they've taken said kitchen from us, and now they're cooking our meals. So he also pointed out that Congress had given the administration until 23 December, I'm sorry, December 2023 to make the changes, and it was completed 5 months early. So this isn't even supposed to go into effect until the end of the year. But here we are, 5 months early, ahead of time, implementing said personnel, right? And then we're gonna go down, and it talks about the other serious crimes because the cases that that they initially spoke about, they say that they're gonna take cases, handle cases that are sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, murder, and other serious crimes. So if we go back down, they're also going to be handling manslaughter, kidnapping, that are also added as of Friday. So pretty much any egregious crime is going to be handled outside the chain of command. And on top of that, let's think about this. That's one less thing that your first sergeant, your commander, company commander, your brigade, battalion commander, and for all the way down, that's one less thing that they have to worry about handling. Because guess what? If it happens at a unit level, something happens, they have to appoint an investigating officer. So that also pulls manpower. So therefore, we don't have to worry about that anymore. Now we can just do our jobs and stay out of the way of the investigation. Those third party sources or independent prosecutors come, do their job, collect their information, and then they leave. I think it's a win win. And it's also White House officials said the full change to the manual for court martials will be published in the Federal Register, and that's going to take a few days. So the fact that they say it's only going to take a few days says that this has been like coming for a while. Like they've been drafting this, it's been looked at, and if you know anything about military regulations and training and TRADOC and NCOs, NCOESs, it takes years for something to get a change, and by the time the change updates for that change, it's another change that came out. So now that doctrine's already old. I hope you guys understood what I said. In my head, it made sense. I'm not sure. But yeah, so they've been doing this for a while, and it's already been vetted, read over, and it's ready for publishing. So the last part that I have is in addition to formalizing rules governing the OSTC, Friday's executive order will also establish prosecutorial decisions made by special trial counsel as wholly independent from the chain of command. So that means that that the decision to even prosecute is taken out. Um, it also update procedures. The administration says will ensure to protect the victim before, during, and after court martial proceedings. And to be honest with you, that's huge. Because think about this. How many times have you seen that someone makes an allegation and they're being ostracized? And that goes back to the point that I said previously, right? They get ostracized, they get treated like liars, they get treated like they're trying to rock the boat. I'm pretty sure many of you that are listening have heard the term "don't rock the boat." They're treated like liars, like boat rockers, that they're messing up the camaraderie in the unit, and they never ever shift their focus to the person being accused. Now, that being said, when the person being accused, they also face the same. Because as we all know, you are guilty until proven innocent. And that's in any court that I've seen. And if you don't agree, let me know down in the comments. Shoot an email. I don't care. But from what I've seen, everyone is always guilty until proven innocent. No one treats the individual that's being the alleged perpetrator normal. Not saying that they treat the person making the accusations better any better, but what I'm saying is they don't treat the perpetrator any better either. The alleged perpetrator. They both get treated bad, but I think for generally the person making an allegation, especially when it comes to sexual assault and EO, they're being treated like a pariah. But yeah, now off my soapbox. You guys can find this. You guys need to read this. You guys need to put this out to your troops, or at least have this general knowledge of what's coming down. Because at the end of the day, um, the more knowledge we have to equip ourselves as leaders, the more knowledge we have to provide our soldiers, allows us to be our own advocates and know what avenues of approach to take. And we know when our rights are being violated at the end of the day, right? We have to make sure that we understand this. And this is the reason why this platform is here. We put information out that you probably wouldn't have seen, and you'll know before it actually, like, everyone else is knowing, and before it takes effect and all that stuff, because that's the point. But yeah, um just want to let you guys know, guys, do me a favor. If you're listening on the podcast, download, leave a review. It's the only way that the podcast is going to grow. The only way the podcast is going to get better. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. I don't know why I keep saying us. It's literally just me. But yeah, I need a co-host. But yeah, let me know what I'm doing right. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. Let me know what you want to see. If you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, share, turn the notification bell on. Follow me as you can see, or as you can hear. I'm on YouTube. I'm on YouTube. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Give me a like, follow, share my stuff, and it'll be much appreciated. Keep coming out with all this good stuff for you guys. All right. So until next time, this is Sarn First Class Cruise. And remember, you don't have to embrace the suck if you got the right tools in your ruck. And I'm out.
Rogersarnt!